Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to create a class method which will insert new recipes into our database or our data store. So let's create a class method and call it def and call the function add_new_recipe. So this function will take a bunch of parameters in. So the first will be the title, then the cuisine. And by the way, the order doesn't matter. You can implement whichever order you want. I'm just going like this because for me it's kind of logical in my head, but then again, I may not have the best logic in the world. So you can go ahead and feel free to change this up. Anyway, next thing is difficulty, and then prep time, and then cook time, and then ingredients, and then let's say directions. And then we will have the photo key, the photo URL, and then the user key, which we will set by default to none. Okay, so this would be the case of parsing a recipe where there is no user inserting anything to our data store, it's just our parser. And source URL is equal to none also. Okay, so now let's see what we have here. We have to treat somehow the fields of ingredients and directions, because as I said before, we will be wanting to extract information from the ingredients and split all these strings and into their components, and the same for directions. So to do that, let's just open up two helper functions to do that, and we will figure out how to implement them later. So let's say class method def parse ingredients, and we will going to take in a string of ingredients. Just to clarify that this in fact is a string. And for now we will pass so that we don't have to implement it right now. And the same thing for the directions. So parse directions is going to be a string of directions and pass for the moment. So let's actually prepare this. So let's say JSON ingredients is equal to cls.parse ingredients, and we need to provide the ingredients which we receive as a string. Okay. Now PyCharm is warning us that this doesn't return anything, and this is true because right now we have pass. But anyway, it's always nice to prepare things just so we don't forget in the future. And list directions, because directions is going to be a list. So list direction is going to be cls.parse directions, and we will pass in the directions. Okay, good. Okay, and since this function add new recipe is going to be used both by our application when our user inserts a new recipe and our parser, we need to distinguish between which case are we in. So by default, let's say the parsed is equal to true. So by default, we are going to be in the parsed case. Okay. So if we are in the parsed case, we're going to set that the user_ID is going to be an empty string. And then if we receive a user key passed into the function, so here, if we receive one, we know that we are not in the parsed case. So parsed will be equal to false, will be overridden to false. And the user ID is going to be the user key dot ID, because we need to run the ID method on the user key to extract the ID, and we will convert this to a string. Okay. Now we will convert this to a string because we will be storing this value inside our search index. Okay, and we want to store it as a string because if we were to store it as a number, as you saw previously, the ID is a long number, and it can create problems in our search index because the number is so big that the search index might get into problems. So instead, we're going to just store it as a string, and like that, we don't have that problem. So now we can actually go ahead and just, insert the recipe. So recipe key, because the put method returns a recipe key, is going to be CLS, which is our recipe class, and we can say user is equal to Okay, so it's this user here is equal to our user key. Parsed is equal to parsed. It's either true or false. It's Boolean. Source URL is equal to source URL, which we are passing into the function. Okay, so source URL is somewhere here, exactly. Title is equal to title. Cuisine is equal to cuisine. Difficulty is equal to difficulty. Prep time is equal to prep time. Cook time is equal to cook time. Ingredients is going to be equal to JSON ingredients, because we're going to format them according to what we want. Directions is going to be equal to list directions. Again, the same thing. Photo key is going to be equal to photo key, because we are passing it into our function. And then photo URL, the same thing, is going to be equal to photo URL. Okay, good. Now we just need to run the put method, and we are all set to go.